Hey, what's going on? This is Sports Truth. I'm your favorite host in the entire world, Jordan Harris. Got quite a few things to talk about today. A really important topic to talk about. I believe a fan favorite quarterback is going to be leaving the Hurricanes probably sooner than later. And I'm sure y'all wondering who is that? Who is that? But first, I want to do a couple of housekeeping things if you don't mind. First, please do like the video, subscribe to the channel. We've been growing quite a bit, so I appreciate that. The first thing I want to talk about is how much I appreciate everybody who supported the channel. I started this thing just because I love Hurricanes football and because I had a fear of being on camera and I had a fear of public speaking. And if you know anything about being a business owner and having a fear of public speaking do not go together. So I had to get better at that, which is part of why I wanted to start this channel. And it's helped me a whole lot. So your support has been a huge blessing. I appreciate that. The second part of housekeeping is I'm recording this video on March 14th. That's 3.14. That makes today National Pie Day. So all the nerds out there, you know what that is. Celebrate Pie Day. All right, anyway, let's talk about who this player is. All right, jump right into it. I believe Jacurri Brown, my man Jacurri Brown, I think he's going to end up transferring. I don't know if it's going to be this year. I don't know if it's going to be next year. I don't know when it's going to be, but I am so sure that he will not finish his career, his college career, with the Hurricanes. And I'm not positive. I wouldn't say I'm 100% sure it is, but I am pretty sure if you finish this video, you will most likely agree with me. All right, so I'm just going to go through and give you exactly the reasons why. Because I thought about this quite a bit, and I'm like, well, if this happens and this happens and that happens and this happens, it's a no-brainer that he will transfer. And what I want you to be thinking about during this video is if Jacurri Brown was your son, would you instruct him to stay at Miami or would you instruct him to leave Miami? That's what I want you to be thinking through this whole thing that I'm going to be talking about. All right? So a lot of y'all have heard of Wu-Tang Clan. They say cash rules everything around me. As you've probably heard me say on this channel, logic rules everything around me. I'm not an insider. I don't have a bunch of inside information. Nobody's whispering anything to me. I'm just doing this based on what logic is telling me. All right? Jacurri Brown is my second favorite player. Xavier Restrepo is my favorite, but Jacurri Brown is my second favorite player. He became a lot of our favorite player once he played in the bowl game this past year, and then he came back and did that interview. I don't remember which podcast it was, but he ended up doing a podcast, and everybody became a huge fan of his after that. So he's definitely a fan favorite, right? So let's jump right into why I think he's going to be. But we first got to make an assumption. The assumption that we all have to make is that his ultimate goal is to get to the NFL. If his ultimate goal is not to go to the NFL, then you can throw this whole conversation out the window. But this conversation is based on him wanting to get to the NFL. Okay? All right. So last season, he redshirted. He played in one game, which ended up being the bowl game. So after that game, my thought was Emory Williams just got a serious injury. So then I'm like, Jacurri Brown actually played pretty well. He played really well, actually, if you ask me, in the bowl game, especially since it was his first start in almost a full year. I thought he played really well, so then I'm thinking Jacurri Brown is going to be the front runner for the starting job next year. I thought that was pretty clear cut. So now let's talk about the situation going forward. Let's project it from last year's bowl game up until now and then going forward. And you tell me what you would tell your son to do. All right. So right now, the situation is this is the 2024 to 2025 season. Jacurri Brown is a redshirt sophomore, but Cam Ward has the starting job locked up. Barring any kind of crazy injury, no other quarterback is going to touch the field this season for the Hurricanes unless, God forbid, there's some kind of crazy injury that happens to our starting quarterback. So the 2024-25 season is basically out the window, right? It's basically a redshirt season, but you don't get to get that season back, basically. All right, so now let's talk about the following year, which is 2025-2026. Jacurri Brown would be a redshirt junior during that year. Emory Williams would be a redshirt sophomore, assuming that he redshirts this year, because a lot of people think he probably will redshirt this year. And then Judd would be a sophomore or a redshirt freshman if he redshirts this year. Now, Emory Williams will have 1 year less of experience than Jacurri Brown. Judd would be actually 1 year less of actual game experience when it comes to Jacurri Brown. So, with all three of those players just being 1 year apart, basically, would it be logical to assume that the starting job would be handed to Jacurri Brown? I think not. I think if you assume Jacurri's going to get this starting job handed to him, I think you're kind of crazy. Um, yeah, I think you're kind of crazy if you think that. Emory started over Jacurri Brown earlier this year, or I should say last year. I get these years mixed up. But Emory started over Jacurri Brown last year in the Florida State game. And I know a lot of people are going to say, well, Jacurri said that he wanted to redshirt, which maybe that's true. I get it. But I'm telling you right now, these coaches have so much pressure on them. It's like it would. Think about it. If you were the head coach and one of your players was like, "Coach, I want a red shirt," and you knew that he gave you the best opportunity to win the rest of the games, are you really gonna let him just sit out and redshirt the rest of the year? I'm thinking not. Especially if you got millions of dollars on the table with your contract, you're gonna play the player that gives you the best opportunity to win. Burn that red shirt easy. So the fact that Emory Williams won the starting job then, I'm guessing, or the fact that they were close enough, I'm guessing that Mario Cristobal probably has Emory maybe a notch over Jacurri Brown. So Jacurri's redshirt junior season, I'm thinking Emory would end up being the starter. I think he would come in as QB1 that year. And then Emory would be a redshirt sophomore. So he would actually have an extra year. So if your son, Jacurri Brown, is behind the player that's a year younger than him, do you want him to stick around or probably not? I'm thinking probably not. All right. Also, we don't know what Judd is going to turn out to be. He might come in here and just be like what Jameis Winston was to Florida State. You know what I'm saying? Like we don't know what Judd is going to end up being. He might come in here and be a world beater. And if he is, he just might leapfrog Emory and Jacurri Brown. So if you were Jacurri's parent and that happened, would you want him to stick around or would you think you would probably want to jump out and go somewhere else? I'm thinking, as much as I love competition, I'd be like, man, we probably need to go somewhere else and see what's going on. That's my opinion on that. Okay? So now, let's say that Jacurri Brown does get the nod. Let's say that in 2025, 2026, during Jacurri Brown's redshirt junior season, let's say that he gets the nod and he is the starter. What kind of stability do you think that starting job would have to it? Do you think that Jacurri Brown would be able to go out there and play free, run around and make big plays? Or do you think he's probably going to play real tight because his leash is going to be extremely short? I'm thinking he's going to have an extremely short leash because the competition is so close between Emory and he. I think he would play super tight, try not to make a mistake, and eventually he might end up losing his job. Or it might end up going between Judd one game and then back to Emory the next game. You never know. But I do know that that is not a situation that looks really stable to me for somebody like Jacurri Brown who's going to come in and he's going to make a couple mistakes. We've seen that, right? He's going to do that. So, once again, I'm thinking I would probably want my son to go somewhere else. Somewhere that's a little more stable, where there's a clear-cut front runner. That's what I'm thinking. So let's say that he starts his redshirt junior year and it goes well. And then he comes back for his redshirt senior year. It would be nothing but a repeat of the previous season. That's all it would be. He would have to look over his shoulder the entire time thinking, am I going to lose my starting job if I do this? Am I going to lose my starting job if I do that? It's going to be a consistent, scary day for him every single time he hits the field because he knows he can't make a mistake or his job might get snatched from him. And that is competition. I understand that. But at the same time, if he's trying to get to the NFL, the name of the game is playing time. The name of the game is experience. The name of the game is getting film on tape. If you cannot get anything on tape, these NFL scouts are not going to see what you're doing, and you can end up playing football in Canada. Not that it's bad. I mean, I'm not talking bad on the Canadian Football League, but the majority of the folks that play football in college, they want to get to the NFL, not the CFL or whatever it's called. I don't know, but God bless those players. But yeah, that's my thoughts on it. To me, it seems like he's just destined to transfer eventually. And once again, I've got to ask, if this was your child in this situation where you have one player who seems like he is at best dead even with you, and that's Emory Williams. It seems like those two are probably dead even. If you have that situation, let's say if you win the starting job, you know Emory is going to be peeking over your shoulder the entire time. The first time you have a game with 2 or 3 interceptions, you're not starting the next game. Everybody's going to be calling for the backup, and the backup will probably get the nod on that. If you do sit behind Emory Williams, say if you don't win the starting job in the offseason, then you're going to have a situation where you're like, well, Emory is younger than me. So that means this year and next year, it's not like he's just going to graduate out and then I get the chance to take the job from him after that. I have to actually take the job from him, which is unlikely unless Emory just goes out there and wets the bed. So tell me, man, if this was your child, I'm 37 now. So being that Emory is in his early 20s, I'm actually old enough to be his dad, kind of, which is weird. I'm getting old. Like, what the heck? It's weird. So, yeah, let me know what you would do. If Emory was your, if Jacurri Brown was your child, would you tell him to stick around and compete? Or would you tell him we probably need to go and look elsewhere, find a better situation where we can be head and shoulders above, second in line, and the only way we can lose the job is if we go out there and just completely wet the bed? So let me know what your thoughts are on that. Please do like the video, subscribe to the channel. Once again, I really do appreciate the support. It's a huge blessing. So thank you. I appreciate that. You could be anywhere in the world, but you're here with me, and I appreciate it. Thank you. Take care. God bless. Peace.